Hi, this is Bob Weiss. I'm the host of Shakin' Your World. Cheers.
Welcome to today's installment of Shakin' Your World. I, of course, am your host, Bob Weiss, and today we are on location at the Tandem Restaurant in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. We have Caitlin with us, who is the creator of a really cool concept. Her background, of course, is in cooking. That's why she can do this whole food gig that we're here for. And my gosh, tell me a story, please.
Oh, which story you want to hear? There's a lot of them going on.
Well, let's talk about the Tandem first.
Okay. So the Tandem in normal times has been a restaurant open on Milwaukee's north side. We opened in November of 2016. And we specialize in like Southern food, soul food, even though I'm a white lady. And our biggest specialty is on-the-job training for young people who live in this community. So you can start getting hired at about 10 years old, as long as your parents are cool with it, to make a little cash and wash cups behind the bar, and you can work your way all the way up to the general manager of this place. Our average employee age is about 19, 20, so it's a very young crew. It's everybody's first job.
Excellent. So generally speaking, how long are people with you?
Really varies. Some people don't make it more than a couple weeks, and then some folks, up until really recently when the crisis hit and will hit the world, were with us the entire time of being open, so 3 years and some change. It really just depends on someone's journey, right? We try and get young people ready for the job world, to get them ready to be out in the food service industry. And so ideally, you'd probably stay with us for about a year and a half before you move on to a better job, someplace that maybe has more traffic, can make better tips, maybe a fancier restaurant. And in Milwaukee here, we've had young people work in a lot of other restaurants, going on to places, small that are cool with like a national profile, like Uncle Wolfie's. And we've had, employees go on to Buckley's, and we've even had one young lady move on to Sanford, which is pretty cool because I don't think I could get employed at Sanford, so that's pretty impressive.
Well, that notwithstanding, which is incredibly impressive, that notwithstanding the mere fact that you are taking people from what is regarded as one of the worst zip codes in the entire country and for incarcerations, and you are taking people and giving them a path and giving them an opportunity to pursue a life and get a life skill, learn how to work with other people, to learn how to work, follow instructions, and understand what is expected of them in the real world as well. That's remarkable.
I grew up in a community where all of that stuff was built into my life. I was fortunate to grow up in a place where I had a lot of support from teachers, parents, neighbors. I was able to have a job by the time I was 10 or 11, babysitting people in my neighborhood, and then was able to get my first job when I was, of legal age at 14. It was a really big part of developing who I was, and I had good school systems and good support systems in addition to that. So I loved the neighborhood we're in, but Milwaukee's north side is plagued with a lot of problems, and a lot of those problems are a lack of opportunity, right? How everyone wants every kid to go get their first job, or everyone who turns 18 to be an adult and start working, but you can't get a job without job experience. And how do you get job experience if no one will hire you?
Right. So what was the catalyst for you that got you going in this direction? Because somebody with your skill set is more inclined to just start a restaurant and just go for the money and just start doing their own course, as opposed to you obviously are looking at other people as the primary focus, much more so than yourself.
Anyone who opens a restaurant to make money is an idiot, for starters. But I'm a sucker. I was a high school English teacher before this and a high school principal. And I really changed my career because I was so compelled by cooking, how much fun it was, how much you could learn doing it, how engaging it was, and also it was a really good way to take care of yourself and to take care of others. And so I don't know, it just seemed kind of like a no-brainer. I moved to Milwaukee 7 years ago with no cooking experience, but I have a master's degree. I was able to make a resume that delicately suggested I had cooked professionally before, even though that might have been not true. And so, but because I can talk nice, because I'm white, because I have this fancy degree, I was able to walk into some of the best kitchens in Milwaukee, like Bavette, which has now been nominated, 5 times for a James Beard Award, and land myself a job where I was able to learn on the job. And so that opportunity is not afforded to young folks of color, particularly young black and brown kids. And so it just seemed like if I was going to open up a restaurant in 53206, I was going to take those young people with me, just the way that I was given that opportunity because of the virtue of who I am.
How'd you find this place?
This place found me. So I really did not go out of my way to find this establishment. I had been looking for kind of my next step in my career and figuring out maybe if I wanted to own my own restaurant or open some sort of like deli, or I don't know what I was thinking, but I was thinking something. And as I moved around, yeah, babe, sorry. You can edit that and I can make it look good. Oh, this is a bad spot to be. Go ahead, Aditya.
Hello.
We'll move. Let's bring it over here. What was I saying? Oh, so I was thinking about my next steps and really deciding if I wanted to, what I wanted to do. And at that time, this building, which was being redeveloped by a woman named Julie Kaufman, she was searching for a tenant to kind of anchor this project. And so she kept asking established restaurateurs, mostly women or people of color, if they wanted to get involved in the process. And every time she asked somebody, she'd walk them through the neighborhood, and they'd be like, wow, this is beautiful, and it's a really great place, and it's just not for me. But I do know someone. And every time they said, but I do know someone, that idiot was me. And so this restaurant came and found me, and I started looking around and walked in and never left.
You do have an extraordinary visage. Your location is marvelous. The place is cute as can be. What's next?
That's a great question. Right now, we're figuring out, for the past 3 months, we've been operating as a soup kitchen. And so what's next for us is figuring out how to go back to being a restaurant and what that even looks like for the future for everyone. We're all in this same boat together, figuring out how to keep people safe, but also keep people engaged, keep people in jobs without going out of business. That's my next step.
It is a brave new world for everyone.
So
the things that we have done for 40 years are not valid anymore. So I'm glad that the COVID-cation is mostly over for us, but yet that pandemic is still here, so that virus is still upon us, waiting. Now, when you do reopen, do you have a timeline for that?
We're looking at sometime in August, and we're really not trying to rush it. So
sure.
As you can see, this is not looking at all like a restaurant right now. And additionally, we've drank and eaten everything in the house, so there's nothing left. So we have to do a full restock. We have to rehire, do interviews. It's like opening a restaurant all over again.
Yep.
So it'll be a while. It's going to take us a minute, and I'd rather do it right than rush in, just to find out we'd really overlooked something serious.
Very nice. Now, you have, obviously the name of the restaurant is Tandem, but you have a tandem relationship with many other restaurants, as well as with this little kitchen concept that somebody has worldly that's much bigger than all of us.
Yeah, so when we started doing the free community meals, we were taking in a lot of donations. Private, a couple foundations got involved, but we were really, at that point, keeping up with the demand. It was a couple hundred meals a day.
Sure.
And as the demand grew, and we landed a partnership with the World Central Kitchen, which is Jose Andres' foundation, we realized that not only would we not be able to keep up with the demand unless we hired back our entire staff, which I wasn't ready to do because there's not enough space in here to do that, but also we were going to be the only restaurant in Milwaukee that was doing great during the pandemic. Meanwhile, all of my friends who own restaurants, all of my neighbors, would be facing going under permanently. And so with a hookup like that, where we were being compensated at $10 per meal, and we're just simply billing them for these meals, it was really a no-brainer for me to engage other restaurants in this process. They weren't going to sign up everybody else. There was going to be one restaurant in the whole state of Wisconsin that was going to get this hookup, and it was us. So rather than get fat and make 50 grand a week, we instead started taking that budget that we had and paying restaurants the exact same amount of money we took in without taking any overhead off. So we use the donations that we've gotten privately to keep our lights on, to keep our staff of 6 moving. But really our budget at this point is about $50,000 a week of money that we bill to the World Central Kitchen based on meals, and we pay the restaurants up front. We don't wait for that billing to hit back. So as soon as someone drops off 100 meals, I write them a check for $1,000 and say, I'll see you next week. And we're doing that at a pretty steady clip.
Back in, I think, April is when you got the nod that you had made the association, right?
Yeah.
So I believe that Tariq really was responsible for getting something rolling on this process, right?
I had nothing to do with it.
Tarik Moody, 88.9, great guy. So now that you've got this kind of mantle, and I think I commented at that time that there was, in my mind, having been in the restaurant business forever, that there was no one in the city that was more deserving of this accolade of getting Jose's relationship and partnership with you, because you have this commitment since you opened in 2016 to really give something back and to do something beyond. And a lot of people talk about wanting to do that, but you clearly have made a significant difference even before this. And I also say to people all the time is that this pandemic is devastating for everybody, but it also creates opportunity. So from anything that happens, we all suffer some kind of malady, something significantly that could be a deal breaker. You find a way to move ahead. But you've done that, not like you're running for sainthood, but you've done that in such a capacity to, again, think about other people first and to carry that forward in a really dark time for us. And that's beyond commendable. I mean, you don't really care if I'm saying this to you, but I think just the world needs to be apprised of what you've done and what your commitment really is, and it's more than just face value. And I think that's wonderful.
I appreciate that. It was just, I was raised Catholic when Mother Teresa was really hot, and so it was burned into my soul at a young age that helping people was the highest honor, and so it's how I've tried to live my life.
Very cool. So you spent some time in the Dominican Republic as well, hadn't you?
Did.
What was that like?
It was a trip, man. I went down there thinking I'd take about a year and teach at an embassy school.
Sure.
Get out of town. I was teaching in Detroit and thought I could use a change of scenery. That was when the school system was filing for bankruptcy. And when I got down there, I ended up getting really tangled into the school system. So I went from being there for a year to being there for 3 years. By the time I left, I was the high school principal. It was I think it's really important that everybody have a chance at some point to live someplace else, because it really does give a difference in perspective and help open eyes about what the world is really like. You know, you get in your little world. I was going to school in Ann Arbor, Michigan right before I left there, and so I was living in a microcosm of just like liberal loveliness. And I got down to a different country and I was like a bleeding heart, had something to say about everybody, and getting a change in perspective and seeing what poverty really looks like, seeing what disproportionate wealth next to that poverty really looks like, put a lot in perspective for me. Made me less of a crabby person, I would say.
So it seems that the vast majority of the interviews that we've done the last couple of weeks have got people such as yourself that have been away. And that common theme also brings that they have experiences, cultural experiences, and a much different perspective on life. Now, I've long maintained that if we took every politician here in America and sent them to Europe, for France, for God's sakes, for 30 days, they'd be much different by the time they came back, because things don't work the way that you maybe want them to work.
Yeah.
And people have their own opinions on things. You somehow have to find a way to deal with that in a system that isn't as forgiving as ours is. So again, this is pretty cool. You want to take us for a little walk and show us around a little bit?
It's a little chaotic right now. We've got the ladies who are volunteers kind of unpacking things into the coolers.
Hello, ladies.
Getting ready for tomorrow's meals. On Fridays, we usually do over 1,500 meals, so it's
Holy
pretty crazy.
balls.
Over here is all of the stuff that we are sorting for when we do reopen.
Sure.
And a booth full of junk as well, mostly apparel.
Yep.
The bar is pretty tapped out.
But a beautiful bar, by the way.
Thank you. This is our assembly room, so right now they're obviously between things and they haven't cleaned up for the end of the day, but when they get meals out, they'll be putting them into containers.
Yep, absolutely.
Sealing them and refrigerating them.
Yep.
Back here we've got the patio, which is really just where some of us go to decompress.
Oh,
and
nice
pretend
breeze.
that we're not, get a good breeze. We're saving a hell of a lot of money on utilities right now, not operating as a restaurant, so we're keeping the doors open whenever possible. And then the kitchen's over there. I'm not sure if these ladies are interested in being filmed,
No,
but I'll
that's
give them
fine.
a
That's
heads up.
fine. Well, this is really a cute little place. I'm
Should
knocked
we
out by
stay
the
out there,
floor,
or-
if you like.
Yeah, it's probably
Please,
nice out
why
there. It's
not?
the only place that doesn't look like shit right now. This is kind of one of the only places that still looks decent.
So the restaurant that you had the best associations with, there's like 8 or 10 or more, perhaps?
We've got 48 paid restaurant partners.
My gosh, okay.
Yep. So They're kind of from all over the city.
Sure.
Some of them are even from outside of the city. We've got one from West Dallas, a couple from South Milwaukee.
Okay.
The idea was, like I said, to kind of share the wealth and find folks who really needed some revenue coming in, some money coming in. And, $10 for a meal about this size, if you're heavy on the starch, you give a good generous portion of meat, but really the cooking is what, is costs money or makes it worth that 10.
Right.
It's a pretty good little profit. And especially when people are doing sometimes 20-25% of their usual business, especially fine dining restaurants are hurting a lot. It felt good to be able to help make sure that some folks had something to stand on.
So when people come here, do they have a choice of what they're getting for an entree, or is that just, here you are? So what have you found seems to be the most popular, or the combination that's the most popular?
I think it's a lot of kid-friendly foods that are the ones that we're selling. So we see a lot of the same people every day. We get some people who come and go, but a lot of folks are feeding families, and not just one or two people, but maybe a family of 7 kids. And so when you have mac and cheese with something snuck in it, that's a big hit. Fried chicken and sides, that's a killer. People love that. And spaghetti. I mean, it sounds crazy because it seems like something that's easy enough to make at home, but when it's all ready for you and it's made with that extra bit of love, folks really go crazy for it.
Absolutely. Neat. So if you had a way to forecast this, to go back a little bit in time, take your time machine and go back 4 or 5 months and say, this is going to be coming, this pandemic is coming our way, and this is what my mission is going to be, which is, I presume, will not be different from it is today, but you could probably make 1 or 2 adjustments in the process. What would that be?
I don't know. I don't think I would have made any adjustments.
Okay.
I mean, we had to learn as we went. And we had to scale as it was necessary, and we had to evolve as we saw fit. And that was really, I think, the only way to do it. The reason we started doing these meals was not just because we wanted to be nice and help people out. We were going to have to cut down to a carry-out menu. And meanwhile, cut my staff in, down to 6, down to 4, I think it was originally. And so I wanted to make sure our carry-out menu was tight, smaller, fewer options, so that we were wasting less food, which really meant we just had to go through the walk-ins and cook off the food that wasn't going to be on the menu anymore. And so people were out of work. I thought, well, won't this be nice? We'll give them something to eat and we'll not waste anything. And it really took off from there. And also, you've been in business 40 years. You guys have been around for that long. We've been going out of business for about 3 of the 3.5 years we've been here. We're not a financially profitable model. We're designed to help folks. We should have been a nonprofit, and we never were. So it was also that moment of being, everyone's screaming and everything's on fire, and oh my God, we're all going to go out of business. And my thought was like, oh, honey, we've been going out of business forever. Let me show you how it's done. Throw yourself at the flames and see what happens. And so I don't think there would have been a way to change it. I think this was the only way to make it happen.
Neat.
Yeah.
So obviously, owning a restaurant takes all your time plus. When you get away, when you have the chance at some point to get away, where are you going to go? What are you going to do?
Ooh, Wisconsin summers are amazing, and they're very brief. So I've been taking every moment that I can to just find a body of water where it's sunny outside and take this out of shape body into a swimsuit and not give a damn and just go out there. And so I'd really love to get away for more than a day. So that's really my goal. When we're done with this and it's all kind of coming to a close and we're going to take that little break time, I would really like to get away for a week, someplace up north, get a little cabin, just really decompress.
Nice.
Arlesia, why don't you pass by now real quick, honey?
Sorry. You're fine.
How about you? You got any summer vacations?
No. I have the luxury of seeing a lot of the world normally, and of course now I can't go anywhere for months and months and months, so I'm chomping at the bit.
Yeah.
And I really enjoy being other places, and I just really get off on the food in other places and the whole culture. So I'm missing that. And music is one of those things as well that I really enjoy quite a bit. That it's interesting to me is that even our house band has not been back to play with us now because they don't want to cross the line, whether that's the COVID line or the other line that's there. Even though they've got people in the band that are African American, they're playing African American music, and I think this is kind of an homage to them, but that's fine. So we've got actually several different bands that we work with that have that same kind of a mindset, and I hope that part of this just kind of breaks, because we got to get back to living. And I understand every part of this, both from the science portion with the virus itself, and I understand the needs right now to make significant changes in our culture and our society to accommodate more people and to embrace more people. I do think that we've taken some things a little bit to one side, that we have to find, the ship's got to find its way to right itself again. And I'm glad that we're open. We had to get our staff back employed. And so we don't have all 30 people, but we've got probably 20 people that are back. And, they got to live too. So controversial, I know, but I think it's important that life goes on.
I think it's only controversial if you're not heeding. I'm not a scientist. I cheated in science in high school, so I can't tell you anything other than what I'm told by the CDC and other health officials that I think are of merit. I was at least educated well enough to have common sense and some critical thinking. And so it really, I think, is only a problem if people aren't trying their best, which is always the case in every scenario. Every restaurant gets a health inspection, and we're all trying our best. And so I did go up to the UP this summer for a weekend, and Michigan has leadership. And so that leader, no offense to our governor, he's a really nice guy, but Michigan has very clear leadership, and it's very concrete. And so even someplace like Marquette, which has a very large population for the UP, but a very small population overall, it was the first time I saw people in bars. And it was the first time I saw people at breweries and at restaurants, and really it was probably the second weekend they'd been doing it. And it terrified me at first until you saw how it was happening, because it had clear guidance. So parking lots and alleyways and sidewalks, everyone was given an extension to put a tent and tables wherever they wanted, to expand their premises so people would be further apart. And there was hand sanitizer everywhere, and there was a nice shield between you and the cashier, and everything was counter service. You walked up, you ordered what you wanted, and then you went and took it and sat at a table. And if you were walking around at any point without a mask on, someone would scream at you. Probably the whole restaurant or the bar or the brewery would scream at you, mask, and you'd put it on. But when you're at your table, we're independent humans. We're allowed to make decisions, whether they be good or bad. As long as they're not negatively affecting others, go ahead and do so. So if I want to sit at a table with 6 strangers without a mask on, face to face, getting drunk and spitting all over each other, that's my prerogative. But when I get up from that table, I have to cover myself up so that I'm not harming other folks. And it was, or you could be going out for drinks with your partner, someone you live with, your kids. And so it was really interesting to see that, because I'm seeing Milwaukee start to do that and learn to do that on its own. But without clear leadership, nobody knows if they should be mad, if they should be pissed off at the establishment, if they should be proud of the establishment. I watched a brewery in River West open yesterday for the first time, and immediately on Facebook, everyone's screaming about, this idiot's over there, can you believe what they're doing? But in all reality, the way they were functioning was perfectly fine. Everyone was distant from one another. No one was walking around without a face covering. There was hand sanitizer at everything that you touched. They were wiping a POS system or a credit card slot, whatever, every time. And so, I don't know. We've never done this before. We're all making it up.
No blueprint.
No blueprint.
Did you consider running for office?
I am. I'm going to actually run for mayor next term.
Fantastic.
Yep.
Is that public?
Yeah.
It is now.
I run my mouth a lot about it. Yeah. It's my plan. I don't really know how to do that. I did have to Google it. Apparently I have to fundraise a lot.
It's a big part of it. Tom Barrett is a super nice man.
He's a great dude. I really like him. He held his watch party here.
Poorly equipped, though, however, to be the head of a major city.
Well, it's tough. I don't know if he's poorly equipped. It's just we right now have to think outside of the box in a lot of ways. And so in this World Central Kitchen Partnership, that was outside of the box. We have spent $250,000 directly to restaurants in the past 3 months. That is action, because there was a lack of action and a lack of direction, and no one knew what to do. And meanwhile, restaurants employed hundreds of thousands of people in our state alone, and we're looking at people starving, restaurants going under. There is no factory infrastructure. There is no north side warehouse that you can work at anymore. And so we employ the city, a huge portion of it. And to just sit there and watch and not really have any idea, but also not ask us what we think we need, is short-sighted. And so instead of going and asking and trying to figure out, I just did what I thought was best.
You've done it well, too.
We tried.
Beautiful.
So here at the Tandem, we cook a lot of Southern food, and honestly, Southern food wasn't my passion until I moved into this restaurant, and it was requested of me to cook this cuisine. Since then, I mean, I always love fried chicken, don't get me wrong, but since then it really has become something I care a lot about. The Southern tradition, the food pathways, the tie to the African diaspora and slavery, the Caribbean, like all of those influences. Southern food really is maybe the meltingest melting pot with all the good, the bad, and the ugly that the United States has up to offer. And so things that are found at, in other cultures at different latitudes at the same latitude across the world are all found in the Deep South, and it's fun. It's fun to explore where shit came from, and figure out where some strain of corn finally made its way across here when some conquistadors showed up with it. I don't know. I really like it. I have a passion for it.
Well, you are well renowned for your fried chicken.
It's kind of what we're known for.
So, panko, cornmeal, buttermilk, what are you doing there?
The trick is brining it.
Okay.
If you don't brine a bird and you plan to fry it, it's a disaster, and so you should just give up in advance. And it can be as easy or as complicated as you want it to be, but really just a lot of sugar, about half as much salt, and some sort of water, liquid, buttermilk. We really just do hot sauce, water, salt, and sugar, and make sure that sucker's in there for at least 24 hours. And then the rest of it is, Google fried chicken recipe. They're all the same. Ours is the same too. It's just we make sure we taste everything as we go. There's only so many ways to reinvent the wheel. There's only about 5 seasonings that show up in any fried chicken recipe, and those are the ones we use.
There you go. How's your jambalaya?
We don't make any jambalaya around here. So that is one thing. If I don't like to eat it, I don't go out of my way to make it. And so as much as I think jambalaya is just fine, it's not my bag. I learned that very early on when we had a lot of young people who are cooking for the first time in their lives. And the guys who are our first staff would just make something terrible because you don't want to taste something you don't like. And so you wouldn't taste it. So it'd be over-salted, or, there was like a disconnect. We had 2 chicken salads on the menu at one point in time. One was a curried chicken salad and like a wrap, and one was a, traditional grapes, walnuts, whatever on a bun. And the traditional one, you'd put a little mustard on with the mixed greens and whatever, and I saw them putting a bunch of spicy deli mustard on a curried chicken salad wrap, and I thought, what in the fresh hell is going on? And had to really realize, you don't eat this. So to you, they are the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And you're going to put the same shit on it anyway. So I don't make a jambalaya.
Okay, so low country though? Shrimp and grits?
No, we really don't get super low country with it. I would say we're more, Georgia, Alabama, a lot of my inspiration comes from it's a black megachurch on the north side of Savannah that had a fried chicken that had a slight sweetness to it.
Okay.
And so that was kind of where we started going with. But I like chicken, greens, cornbread, skillet corn, just really straightforward food that people are used to seeing. Picnic food. Yeah.
What about the Pink House? What do you think about that?
What's the Pink House?
Savannah?
Never been.
Or Grays? Okay.
Never been.
Okay.
I've been to Savannah, but I'm poor.
Okay.
So I haven't been to a lot of cool places.
Oh, you're in the restaurant business,
I
of course.
I went to a black megachurch on the north side to
Okay.
eat from the pastor's wife's cafeteria.
Okay.
That's the kind of the eating I do when I
Okay.
travel. So
Cool.
yeah,
One fine day, we should do a gig.
I think. I
Okay.
would love that.
All of our summer series on the rooftop, they're just a blast up there.
Hell yeah.
Okay,
Let's do it.
cool.
Elbow bump.
This has been great. Thank you very much. Wonderful meeting you.
Thank
and
you.
I love what you're doing here. Keep doing it. And we'll talk about your run for mayor as well.
Thanks for coming to visit.
Thanks for having us.
Bye, guys.
Cheers.